Welcome to the deep dive. Ever really think about how precise our words can be? Or maybe how imprecise?
Absolutely. Sometimes the smallest difference in wording changes everything.
Right. And today, we're going to unpack two words that often get, a bit tangled. Overlook and neglect.
Good pair. They definitely feel similar on the surface.
Exactly. We've got our source material here, overlook von neglect.txt. And basically, our mission today is to really get clear on what makes these two words different.
Sounds good. And I think looking at where they come from, their etymology is a great starting point. It often gives, well, really good clues.
Okay, lead the way. Where does overlook start?
So overlook comes from Middle English, the word overlunken. Pretty straightforward. Really, it's over, meaning above, and loken, or look.
So literally looking over something, like inspecting it.
Precisely. That was the original sense, inspecting, examining. The idea of failing to notice something came quite a bit later. It evolved.
Huh. So it shifted from active looking to accidental not seeing. Interesting. What about neglect? Is it visual like that?
Not really, no. Neglect has Latin roots. It comes from negligere.
Negligere, okay.
And if you break that down, neglige means not, and legere? Well, legere has a few meanings, like to pick up, to choose, or to attend to.
Ah, so not choosing or not attending to.
Exactly. Right from the start, it had this built-in sense of failing to act, failing to give care or attention. It wasn't about looking in the same way.
That's a really clear contrast from the get-go. Overlook starts with the eyes, ends in a miss. Neglect starts with inaction, a failure to choose to care.
You got it.
So how do we pin down the modern definitions then? Let's get precise. Overlook is...
Overlook today means basically to fail to notice or consider something. And the key part usually is that it's unintentional, an oversight.
Okay, unintentional, a slip, and neglect.
Neglect is more about failing to provide the necessary attention, care, or effort. And crucially, this failure often results in harm or things getting worse, deteriorating.
Right. There's a consequence baked in more strongly. And maybe less accidental.
Often, yes. It implies a lack of care, maybe carelessness, or even a conscious disregard, though not always malicious. It's about not doing what should be done.
So if we wanted to boil it right down, the absolute core difference.
Overlook, you accidentally miss something. Neglect, you carelessly fail to do something needed.
Accidentally miss versus carelessly fail.
Yeah.
Got it. That's useful. Okay, examples always help cement these things. Let's pull some from the source. What are some classic overlook situations?
Okay, think about proofreading a report. You read it carefully, you think, but you still miss a typo. That's overlooking it.
Right, happened to me last week. What else?
Or maybe someone makes a genuine mistake at work, but because they're usually really reliable, the boss decides to overlook it this time. The error is seen, but not acted upon harshly.
Okay, context matters there. Like overlooking a minor factual error an editor might miss in a rush.
Exactly. Or skimming a contract. The fine print. You technically looked at the page, but you overlooked a key clause because you didn't focus on it.
Yeah, the dreaded small print.
And one more, maybe someone has a hidden talent. People interact with them all the time, but they overlook this potential until, bam, the person has some big achievement.
So in all of these, it's accidental, a failure of notice rather than a failure of care.
Pretty much, yeah. Unintentional is the common thread.
All right, let's switch gears. Examples of neglect. How does that play out?
Here, the failure to provide care is central. Think of a houseplant or a garden that dies because nobody watered it. That's neglect.
Clear failure of responsibility there.
Definitely. Or a student who just ignores their homework for days, doesn't do it, and then, unsurprisingly, fails. They neglected their studies.
That feels more like a conscious choice, or at least persistent carelessness.
It often is. Another example. A landlord who doesn't do repairs. The building falls into disrepair because they're neglecting their duty to maintain it.
Right, neglecting responsibilities.
And it can be more serious, like parents who consistently fail to meet their children's basic emotional needs. That's a profound form of neglect. Or even neglecting your own health, ignoring symptoms until something serious develops.
Okay, these examples feel heavier. There's a clear sense of failing to provide something essential, whether it's watering a plant or providing emotional support or basic maintenance.
Precisely. There's a duty of care, an expectation of attention that isn't being met.
So wrapping this up then, it seems really clear that overlook is mostly about an unintentional slip. missing something you didn't mean to miss.
Hmm.
Whereas neglect carries this weight of failing to care, failing to act when action or attention is needed. It's not just semantics, is it? It really touches on intention, responsibility, consequences.
Absolutely. Understanding this difference helps us, interpret situations more accurately. It helps us understand accountability, our own and others.
It really does. It makes you think differently about how you describe things. So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. How might paying closer attention to whether something is truly overlooked versus actually neglected change how you see things?
Yeah, how might it shift your perspective on responsibility, both yours and other people's?
A subtle language shift, but maybe a significant perspective shift too.